Any update on Brad after the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he's just, we'll see how he recovers. He's got a tight abductor, so we kept him inside today to work inside, but we think he'll be fine come Sunday.
And having Marco as an alternative certainly isn't a bad thing. How do you think that he's kind of contributed over the last month or so? He's obviously had a big couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his contribution off the bench was immense. Certainly measured, with the goals in the last game. But every situation is different. Every opponent is different, and we'll put out the team that we think is best, equipped to play that opponent. We're blessed that we have, three guys that can play those two wide positions with Nagel and Papa and Evans, and two of those three will be on the field. And you keep your fingers crossed because you're always making sure everybody's staying healthy. So, but I think there's good options there for us.
How important will those wide areas be? You talked about their influence on Saturday and against two teams that both like to play from out wide. How important will that be to kind of win that battle?
Well, obviously Vancouver and Dallas are a little bit similar in that they, both possess good speed, and they try and get their guys, isolated, whether it's Mane and Hurtado or whether it's Escobar and Castillo. But we'll see, and we'll develop that game plan when we know exactly who the opponent is, right now. But certainly they're teams that we have to be aware of their wide play and their penchant to attack over wide spaces.
With the regular season over, by numbers, Oba had the best season that a Sounders had. Y'all had the best season that a Sounders team has ever had. Are those numbers deceiving in any way, or do you think both of those things are probably true?
No, I think when you look at 34 games, I think it becomes a true reflection. As somebody says, basically the cream rises to the top, and a cup competition is Fantasy Island. Anybody can have their day, so from the standpoint of 34 games, the consistency over those 34 games. Did you play well in every game? No, not necessarily so. Did we pull some games out? Yeah. Did we dominate some games? Yeah. Did we have some stinkers along the way? Yeah. It was a little combination of all those. But at the end of the day, we were the ones who were able to pick up the most points, and averaging just under 2 points a game, which is a pretty significant number. I think when you look at most leagues, you have the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas and the Bayerns, and those guys will average more than 2 points a game. But the rest of it, it's tough for anybody to get to those numbers. And I think it's a reflection that we have been pretty consistent this season, and we've had a good season. And then the individual numbers that Oba's achieved, Clint, as well, that he's achieved, I think is just a reflection of the strength of our team, and everybody combining well and realizing when they needed to get them the ball at times, and those guys obviously with their individual abilities making things happen. So again, it's that consistency, when I think Oba's total is like being involved in 30 goals, and Clint's been involved in like 26 of our goals, and he's missed games in there. So when you take into account those missed games as well, that's pretty good when you're involved in a team's, close to, whatever that is, 45% of a team's goals. That's a good thing.
Speaking of Clint, are there any decisions yet about how he's going to spend his offseason?
No, nothing that we've talked about. Last year was something that was unique and specific to the World Cup and how we approach this offseason. We want our offseason to be very short, and so if it's a short offseason, we might need a break.
Whatever it ends up being, does he need club permission contractually this year to go anywhere, or can he go on his own?
Well, it's always with our permission, yeah.
With the win to capture the Supporters' Shield, where would you rank that win as far as the importance in the club's history?
Well, it was certainly a very exhilarating game at the end, and very exciting, game at the end. So from a standpoint of the club's history, I think it was a significant win because it was LA, it was at home, it was with the Supporters' Shield on the line, last game of the regular season. That scenario really hasn't existed for our club, hasn't existed for any club in terms of winning the Supporters' Shield. So I think that made the game really unique and special. So it felt like a cup final, in that regard, because it was a one-off game, and so it's probably got to rank up there number one, but obviously the Open Cup victories are up there as well. But But you know, I don't like to rank things like that in general. You know me, but it's certainly right now. I think it's got to be the #1 win in our history.
Did you have any thoughts on the MLS news today about Chivas going dark, and especially about Houston and Kansas City coming to the West?
Well, the league, you know, the league and the new ownership group that's going to take over that franchise, obviously, you know, have discussed it and planned it, and you know, are trying to do what's best for them to come back on a very solid foundation in the Los Angeles market. So I think giving them a 2-year hiatus to get that squared away and get that set right, and to possibly get the stadium situation organized, I think is the right thing to do. Kansas City and Houston coming to the West, you know, just makes the West a little merrier. You know, we welcome all. I'm surprised they didn't send us maybe their top 2 teams, and you know, have New England and DC come over, so we get all the points over here. But you know, I think with the competition on the West, and depending on how the schedule works out, which is still the big question for next year, how many games you're going to play in conference and out of conference, I think it's going to make it. It's going to make it tough down the line, maybe in the short term, for maybe a West Coast team to win the Supporter Shield again, just because it's going to be so competitive and you're going to be taking points off of each other. And, you know, with 2 expansion teams in the East, although I think there'll be good expansion teams, you know, and a couple of teams having off seasons, in Montreal and Chicago, how are they going to come back? How are they going to build back in? You know, probably makes that division look easier. But at the end of the day, you never know.
Cool. Thanks, Coach.